Hello and welcome back to the JAGcast. My name is Marin Heide, and I'm here with Blue Springs South's forensics teacher, Miss Rucinski-Winter, to talk to our forensics and debate program. So, to begin, you don't teach debate, just forensics and like some theater stuff. But for listeners who don't know, what is forensics and debate, and how do the two programs like differ or connect to each other?
Okay, so we do have two sides of the team, which forensics is one side and debate is the other side. And with the forensics side, the easiest way to describe that is that it's competitive acting. It's competitive drama. So you are doing acting events, and then you are going and competing with those against high schoolers from other high schools to see who's got the better acting performance prepared. That's basically what forensics is. Debate then is pretty self-explanatory. You are debating either against one other person or another pair of people if you are in a partner debate event. The one way that the two do cross over is that both do what we call speaking events. So that would be things like informative speaking and oratory, which is a persuasive speech. Both sides of the program do those speaking events. And debate also has some other speaking events like extemporaneous speaking, but we don't touch that on the forensics side.
Nice. So how successful has South's forensics team been in the past?
We have been a very successful team. We are very nationally recognized pretty much since day one of inception. And I was on that team back in the day, way back in the day, 1992, 93, when we started that chapter of forensics and debate here at South. And we just came out the gate being very successful and have maintained that success through the years. I certainly didn't have any plans of coming back here and teaching, let alone coaching the team that I was on once upon a time, but here we are today. So that has been really cool to see how our team has stayed successful. As a team, we are ranked in the top 0.5% of the nation when it comes to all of the NSDA teams combined, and that's thousands of teams across the United States. So we are in the top 0.5%. So we are better than 99.5% of all other teams. So we are very successful.
That's nice. I also didn't realize you were on the team before you started like coaching it.
Yes, this is my team that I am now coaching.
Look at you.
I know, full circle.
Mm-hmm. So then has like COVID changed anything with forensics and debate over the years?
COVID wrecked us. COVID was awful. And that wasn't just our team. That was every speech and debate team across the board, across the United States, because we had to take an activity that is very performance-based and very audience-centered and performing and speaking in front of these audiences and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to switch this all now to where we can't perform in front of audiences? So what are we going to do instead? And what ended up happening was we tried to do this asynchronous version of what we do where kids would record their performances and then we would email those off to judges to watch, but it would be the same performance being watched every round, and that's not how we do it in the real world when we're not stuck in our houses, right? And it became very tricky with trying to do Zoom calls with one debate, debating against another pair, and they're all in different houses trying to do this together, and it was just very confusing. And the bottom line is that for a lot of kids, what they really enjoy in this activity is getting up and performing in front of those audiences. So when you don't have that live audience and you're just recording yourself and sending it off somewhere, it's not the same. And so as a result, many kids dropped out of the program because they basically said, if I have to do it that way, I don't want to do it. And that killed our numbers, not just in our program, but across the United States. The whole activity of speech and debate really took a large hit with COVID because of that. So, in our school alone, our beginning forensics numbers dropped down to 6, which I have 2 sections of that class usually, so that was a huge hit. And then just through natural matriculation that happens, people move away, people were in there that were older and so they graduated or whatever. Then last year was the first year that I didn't have any seniors in forensics at all because of the whole COVID.
Jeez.
issue that happened. So we're slowly bringing our numbers back up again after that whole mess, but it definitely had a negative impact on the teams.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely think it's been, getting back up there in recent years. We have a lot more, at least than when I was earlier here, we have more, beginning and, what's it, intermediate?
Yes. Yeah, our numbers are definitely heading in the right direction of where they should be, but they decreased significantly during COVID, so we're having to crawl back out of that hole again, so.
Took quite a toll. So this upcoming weekend and a few weekends past that, we're officially starting the postseason of Forensics and Debate.
Yes.
So how is the postseason different from the regular season, and what steps have you taken as a teacher to help further prepare your students?
Yeah, so when we're talking about the postseason with Forensics and Debate, we're talking about what we refer to as the Big E tournaments, where they are doing things like conference and districts to qualify to state, districts to qualify to nationals. And so essentially that's our top competitors that have consistently been our top competitors throughout the season. And we decide who those people are going to be, who we will take to those tournaments, completely based off of the ranks that they received throughout the regular season. And so typically it's our juniors, it's our seniors, because those are usually the ones who are most successful at the varsity level to go. And we can only take a limited number of people in each one of those tournaments. So for instance, at conference, we can only take 2 people per event. At MSHA districts, to try to qualify to state, we can take 3 in each event. Nationals, that's open to whatever, but they have to earn bids throughout the season to be able to qualify for nationals. So we can only take a few people. So it's going to be our top people that we're trying to get to state and to win conference and those kinds of things. So obviously those people are going to have to be worked with even more, and that's typically how we handle it. We've got rehearsals with them after school. We're breaking down their pieces. We're trying to figure out those places that need to be fixed. Where can we add new stuff to give it a little new life again, because sometimes we get on what's called autopilot and we're just kind of working our way through the lines and not really getting into it anymore. So we try to figure out ways to mix it up, make it different, and clear up any confusion that might be happening for audiences. They go back, they look at their ballots that they've gotten throughout the season from judges and look at those comments and figure out if there's things they need to change there as well. All that kind of stuff goes into making sure that their performances are as good as they can be heading into those big tournaments.
Nice. So you have been teaching forensics here, as you said, for years.
Yeah.
And so you've seen a lot of students go through it. You also have a son in the program outside of the district.
I do, yes, in Green Valley, yeah.
So what are the benefits that you have seen from kids participating in Forensics and Debate?
I can tell you that when you head out into the real world, those skills that you need in life, like being able to communicate with other people face to face, whether that be in an interview situation, whether that be in a communicating in front of a meeting for wherever you work and communicating in front of the people that you are in charge of, or maybe something that your boss is having you do. All of those skills are coming from being in our programs. People leave with those skills, regardless. They don't have to be an actor, later on in life to actually get skills from these programs. And the kids that we're pushing out of our programs have these skills, and they are excellent leaders. They know how to work on a team. They know how to be leaders. They know how to communicate. And that looks great on a resume, but it also plays out really well in life in no matter what area you find yourself in. So the things that I really enjoy seeing with kids is the progress they make with that type of skill. I always say at the beginning of my classes, I don't care if you come home with the hardware. I don't care if you come home placing, because at the end of the day, that's not what matters. And those things are all going to get thrown away at some point anyway. I think my box of trophies got thrown away. I can't tell you how many years ago, right? Yeah. But that's all going to go to the wayside. What matters is the relationships you've created, the skills that you've gained that are going to take you on in life later. And one way that I can really see it through kids is those kids that come into my class at the very beginning and are super anxious, and it's really hard for them to get up in front of an audience and to get really nervous about it, and they have stage fright. And halfway through the first semester, they've already that switch has been flipped, and they're good to go, and they're not as nervous, and they don't get as anxious, and that carries over into dealing with anxiety in other situations as well. So that's one of the greatest ways that I can see kids making improvements in the program.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I know I wouldn't say used to. I still am a very anxious person.
But you've learned how to handle it differently, right?
Yeah.
And manage it.
I mean, I know my confidence has definitely grown. And honestly, like, the community, too, is just, it's so, like, tight-knit and, like, very, supportive, team building.
Like a family.
Yeah,
and that's what's important, I think, at the end of the day, is that kind of relationship that you're creating with other people, not the fact that you came home with a trophy of some kind, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun. That's an added bonus, but it's not... It's not necessary to have gained something from the program, I don't think.
Yeah. And then... Oh, actually, that leads me to my last question. Clearly, I and many of my peers enjoy forensics, but what have you enjoyed the most about teaching or, like, participating in the program?
I mean, I always say that the reason why I'm still here is because of you guys. I mean, that's the enjoyment of teaching for me. There's so much other hoo-ha about teaching that gets really frustrating and gets aggravating for teachers.
Yeah.
But you all are the reason why I'm excited to come every day and why I'm excited to still be here 22 years later, right? And you are what makes the job enjoyable. And part of that then is watching the growth that you all make and knowing, at the end of every year at our end of the year banquet, when I do those senior farewell speeches, that's 4 years worth of stuff that I have learned about each one of those individuals, and they've really become like another child of mine, right? And I talk about how, thank the parents for sharing them with me these 4 years, because they really do become like extra kids of mine. And when people say, how many kids do you have? I'm like, I have 2 biological, but I have about 5,420 other kids. And they're like, what? So, but that is what it is. And one of my favorite parts is watching the growth that every single one of you goes through in that time period that you're in the program. And whether or not you're in it 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, or all 4 years, there's going to be growth that happens there. And that's my favorite part, is watching how you walk into my room that first day as a beginning forensics student. And then when you leave the program, however many years that is, the progress that you have personally made. And not just as an actor, but as an individual and a person too, because I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're definitely grateful to still have you here doing it.
6 more years.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for being here, and it was, wonderful to interview you, to get to speak to you about all this. And to our listeners, that's all for this week's episode. Tune in next time, and that's it.